Jacobin magazine. Please give him a warm welcome from across the Atlantic.
Thank you very much. I'm with Defending Rights in the Senate. I'm covering the trial today for death of all of our rights to say no to war and militarism. We have to remember that when the collateral murder video came out, when the Iraq and Afghan war logs were released, many people were disturbed by how the corporate media had cheerleaded on the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, and WikiLeaks was a breath of fresh air, reminding us what critical journalism that spoke truth to power was. Here we are 14 years later, and the media is once again cheering on more wars, a genocide in Gaza, bombing in Yemen, maybe another Iraq war, who knows? From the very beginning, the U.S. government knew that you can destroy journalism by destroying the sources. The imprisonment of Chelsea Manning, the attacks on Edward Snowden and Daniel Hale have always been part of a backdoor war on journalism. Now they are going through the front door and trying to lock away the journalist himself, and we cannot allow that to happen. Thank you very much.
And of the Parliamentary Assembly of Council of Europe. And that assembly is the assembly who elects the judges in the Court of the Human Rights in Strasbourg. And I have to say that 3 times in 2020, in 21, and some weeks ago, the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe called with huge majority for the immediate release of Julian Assange because of what it means for press freedom, and that is, I think, a very good sign. You know that this could be the last hearing today, and
it's a great pleasure to introduce an old friend of mine who I've been campaigning with for many, many years, and he has been an unrelenting advocate of Julian Assange. He was one of the very first MPs to take up the case of Julian Assange. He's one of the hardest working MPs for the cause of Julian Assange. He is the former leader of the Labour Party and the People's Prime Minister, Jeremy Corbyn.
Thanks, John. And can I just start by saying thank you to every single person that's here this morning. We sent a call out saying, be outside the Royal Courts of Justice this morning to show your support for Julian Assange. And I hope on this occasion the British media have turned up as well, because it's been markedly obvious how great the reporting has been all around the world of the appalling injustice that's been done to Julian, and how little the British media have covered it. It's a story right on their doorsteps. But I guess for the British establishment, the whole question of Julian Assange is just a little bit embarrassing. And so I think we should also say a huge thank you to the steadfastness of all those that have organised the campaign for Julian, and in particular our love and solidarity to Stella for the work that she's put in and the obvious stress and strain that she has been under. Now, Julian is currently in Belmarsh Prison, which is a maximum security prison. It is an awful place, it is awful conditions. It's not the kind of prison that should exist anywhere. I want prisons to be supportive, corrective and reformative, not punishing and destroying of people's characters and lives. And before that, he was in exile in the Ecuadorian embassy, and I think we should say thank you to that government of Ecuador that was prepared to support Julian. And then you ask yourself the question, why was it they were prepared to stick their necks out so far and support Julian? It was because he was telling the truth about what was going on around the world. He was telling the truth about the US involvement in Afghanistan and Iraq. He was also telling the truth about corporate greed and corruption around the world, stealing the resources from the poorest countries and the poorest people in the world. He was telling the truth about the corruption in the way in which our media conspires with governments and the military to hide the truth about the horrors of war. And when we held an event in solidarity with Julian in the National Press Club in Washington, we held it in exactly the same place where the film was exposed, where an order was given, a direct order was given by the US military to kill civilians on the street in Iraq during the Iraq War. If only Julian were alive in reality in front of us, alive to give the reporting rather than being stuck in that horrible cell in Belmarsh, what would he be saying? What would he be saying about the bombardment of Rafah and all the destruction of life all across the Gaza Strip? What would he be saying about the highly sophisticated weaponry that is being used and has so far taken the lives of almost 30,000 Palestinian people? We need that strength, that skill, that determination of Julian Assange to get to the truth around the world. He is a real journalist. Real journalists take risks. Real journalists go for the truth, whatever the cost. That has cost the lives of 80 journalists in Gaza already, and in many other conflicts around the world. What we need is Julian's voice to be out there. So the idea that Julian should be prosecuted under the Espionage Act in the United States, the same legislation that was used against Daniel Ellsberg and others that tried to bring truth to the US body politic, is beyond appalling. So this court today has an opportunity to ensure that Julian's case is heard, that Julian's search for justice is achieved, and that ultimately Julian is able to walk free. But it also depends on the political process and atmosphere in the United States. President Biden could end this incarceration in 2 minutes. He could withdraw the whole case against Julian Assange. If he believes in press freedom, as he says he does, if he believes in a pluralistic democracy, as he says he does, then let Julian go, let Julian tell the world the truth of the horrors and inequality that exist on this planet. So we're here today in support of Julian, we're here tomorrow in support of Julian, and I say to the court, very gently and very persuasively, whatever your decision, we ain't going away. We are supporting Julian as long as it takes. And a huge thank you to all those people all around the world that have spoken up and said so much in support of Julian. And let's be of good strength, of total determination, that we will ensure that Julian Assange is freed to tell the truth and help to bring about that decent, more equal, more sustainable, more peaceful planet. Thank you, Julian, for all you've done, and thank you for all you will do. Thank you very much.
We shouldn't be having to meet here to protest against his incarceration. We shouldn't be having to meet here today to think about the way he, Stella and the family have been robbed of their family life. And why has Julian Assange been robbed of his freedom? Why has Julian Assange been robbed of his family life? Why has the country and around the world don't expose war crimes? Because if you do, what happened to Julian Assange might happen to you. So we see around the world horror unfolding. We see what's happening in Gaza. We see what's happening in Rafah. Don't we need more Julian Assanges, not fewer Julian Assanges? And don't we need journalists and whistleblowers out there? Please welcome Sarah Sultana.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Zara Sultana. I am the MP for Coventry South, and I bring solidarity to Julian Assange, Stella, and everyone who believes in the power of journalism. Revealing war crimes is not a crime, it is journalism. It is what we say when we talk about speaking truth to power. But we know Julian is being targeted for exposing US war crimes, the crimes of...
Wow. Thank everyone for coming here today for Julian. He'll be very moved to know that so many people showed up today. Whatever happens today and tomorrow and this week, please keep on showing up. Be there for Julian and for us and for you until Julian is free. Free Julian Assange! We have 2 big days ahead. We don't know what to expect.
We support you.
But you're here because the world is watching. They have to know they can't get away with this. Julian needs his freedom and we all need the truth. Thank you.
Thank you so much for showing up today at this extremely important hearing where the future of journalism and the freedom to express will be decided. Julian Assange has been denied justice for so long that it's about time that he receives some justice. There is a glimpse of hope, and when I look out at all of you who have shown up here to observe,
But it will not come from within those courts. It will come with you. It will come with us in these streets. They know how corrupt this process is. They understand fully the judicial pantomime that they have engaged in from the inception to crucify the most courageous, most important journalists of our generation, and they are hoping they will not be called out. They are hoping that we will not react. They were hoping that we will not speak out. It is the pressure that you exert on these mandarins of injustice that will free Julian. And I want to thank everyone for coming today, because it is this force in this street and streets throughout the world that will finally bring Julian home. Thank you.
I'd love to see everybody here tomorrow as well. This is really heartwarming and yeah, it really gives us a lot, inspires us to keep going as Julian's family. As John just said, last week the entire Australian Parliament voted on a motion in